Okay, so hi, my name is Hien, and today I'm gonna uh, mm, do a video of to explain my final project. So this is the three patterns I'm gonna use: pattern PH, which is image 1; pattern P7, which is image 2 in the functions; and pattern P2, which is image 3 in the functions. Right. So to make it a little more interesting with this project, I decided to use a random colors function, which is this function over here. So in this random color function, I'm gonna use random shuffle and the other tools to shuffle the colors, shuffle random colors to every lines or every single small patterns or sub patterns, or the sub patterns of a big patterns. So that's why so the pros of these of having this function is the first thing is gonna be yeah, as I said, it's gonna look a little more interesting, and the second pros is it is gonna have so every time I want to fill a colors, I don't have to put uh, more parameters inside of this function, more colors parameters inside of this function. I just have to call out this random color function every time I want to fill it, to fill the colors, right? So there's one more function that I'm gonna use is I'm gonna write that I wrote is gonna be the position function. I call it position function. So this function is basically tell the turtle to go back to the original point, which is 0.0 whenever it's done drawing a function or a subfunction of a pattern, which also means that a big cluster like this is gonna, every time it's done drawing a pattern, it's gonna go back to this point. It's gonna go back to this point, and also when it's when it start drawing when while it's drawing a pattern, it's also gonna start from the center of the pattern and make the loops. Okay, so let's move on to the pattern P7, which I called image 2, which I call image 2. So this image 2 function has two parameters, which is home point and edge. Edge is the length of the square. So first variable I'm gonna create is variable I, which is edge divided by 40. Edge divided by 40. And the main idea of and the pen size, and the I is gonna decide the pen size of the turtle. So the main idea to draw this pattern is I'm gonna use a for loop of 20 times, which also means that the turtle is gonna draw 20 small squares. Okay, so it's gonna draw. The main idea of these codes is gonna tell the turtle from the starting point, which is the original of the code, the center point of the coaster, and move on to this point, to which is the center of this pattern. And right here, I created a pH variable, which is this calculation. So it's gonna the main. So here's how it works. So from this center, imagine this is a center. It's gonna move to from this. Imagine this is a center. It's gonna move to this point, and it pan up, go to this point, go to this rear point over here, and then move to this point over here, and then right turn, and then left turn, and then draw, and then start drawing the biggest square. So every time it's done draw a big square, there's two things I want the turtle to do. Is that it's going to fill the colors for the squares, and the next time it does the loop, the size of the smaller squares is gonna be the is gonna decrease by pH by pH. So it's basically is so it's gonna move to, so once again it's gonna move from the center to this point, go to this point, go up here, draw the square, fill the colors, and then go back to the center, move to this smaller point over here, and start drawing until it draw the 20 square. So move on to the next pattern, which is P2. So based on the intention of messing around with random colors, I came up with an interesting ideas that I'm not gonna, instead of drawing the whole straight lines like this to make a pattern, right? I'm gonna create I'm gonna make the turtle to draw super small squares, and those small squares is gonna line up and create these lines over here. And the interesting part is that each of these small squares is gonna have a random different colors. So what I did is I'm gonna break this pattern into 4 symmetric squares, which is the top right corner, the bottom right corner, top left corner, and bottom left corner. So the main things I'm gonna use to define the rule to draw each of these small patterns is the for loop and the if statement. So if statement is gonna create the rule. Since I already broke the pattern into 4 symmetric corners, and you can already realize that two of the corners has the same drawing direction, which is the same drawing rule. So what I did here is I'm gonna use the for loop for j in range of 4. If j, which is the orders of the corners, so for example, this is gonna be corner number 1, corner number 2, 3, and 4, right? So in this for loop, if j divided by 2 different to 1, which is you can say is like an odd numbers, it's gonna move as the rule x equals 2 and y equals 3. X is the x coordinate, y is the y coordinate, and it's gonna start drawing the squares, the smaller squares. So this rule also applied. This rule is also used to find the starting position of the square. So here is how it works. So from the center of the coaster, it moved to this point and move. Since this is the first corner, it's gonna move by x equal 3 and y equal 2 to this point. It's gonna pen down and then start drawing the super small squares, and then keep drawing like this line. Keep drawing to make these lines, and then it's gonna come here, and this time it's gonna and then it's gonna come to here, but this time y is equal 2 and x is gonna be x is equal 2 and y is equal 3. So this is pretty complicated to explain.